Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. The title is Where is your mind located? And I feel this question is so important to ask because we're all treating ourselves as minds, but we don't know what it is. We know what the brain is, but how the mind is appearing, how the mysteries and the hard problems of consciousness stand, or the hard problem of consciousness stands. The mind at times appears as an object and at times appears as a subject. What I mean by that is that when you're moving your body, your mind is your body. But when you're not moving your body and you've closed your eyes and you're wondering about tomorrow or yesterday and how the world moves, so in this episode, the question is the door. Where is your mind located? Now in the subtitle I've written language should be used to unify, not separate. Not separate. This is an important point. Okay, to continue. There's a quote that's very important by Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, this yogi. He says, diversity without separateness is the ultimate that the mind can touch. Diversity without separateness. When you look at it, our existence, we're all part of an existential event, but it is language through our subjective experience that separates us. So what does that mean? That means the diversity, what gives human beings diversity, separates us, is the language, and existence pulls us towards the singular. That means experience is like a being pulled by the multidimensional, and existence is being pulled or drawn by the singular, you can say. So when you look at existence, you're a singular being. The outcome is towards the singular. When you look at experience, you're not a singular existence. So anyways, guys, language is what is separating us. Language is as crucial as a dimension of time. Time is literally the word time is in language. So I would say there is 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of language. And in that dimension of language, we've specified time. Time is a specificity. So I feel there is the 4th dimension is not time, it's language. Time is, that means space has more of a definition than time. That means, strangely to me, space is more real than time. So let's keep in mind that we become diverse through language. Language is the divide and conquer strategy. And in accordance to, you know what it is? It's like a unknown multidimensional mind is using language through a known singular body. Pretty much, guys, our intelligence in the moment is located as an object leading to a subject, and a subject leading to an object. It's literally like they're taking turns. The body moves the mind moves the body moves the mind moves the body. You know, in the conscious waking state, we don't have access to the content of dreams, but in the dream state, the body is, it's as if the body, in the conscious waking state, the body moves, the mind is in the passenger seat. In the dream state, the mind is in the driver's seat, and the body is in the passenger seat. And in the dream state, in the deep sleep state, both of them are out of the vehicle. Both the mind and neither the body or the mind is driving. I feel this is a model perhaps the mystery can follow. That the conscious waking state, we as a multidimensional being discover the nature of our body, the mystery of it. In the dream state, we discover the mystery of the mind, the nature of the mind, and let's say in the deep sleep state, that is the mystery of the soul. So the soul is literally like deep sleep. It is an absence of limitation. That's what the soul is. Because the language we use to define what kind of creature we are puts limits. The person says, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, I'm this, I'm that, I desire that, I came from this. Do you know all of these are just language, literally costume language, costume games. That means I wonder how long will it take until we realize that the idea of the human is an idea. And I think it's going to blow our minds that really what we are is silent existence alongside noisy experience. Our experience is sound. Just think about it. Sound is sculpting the meaning. You know what it is? It's like you can see things, then you can hear things, And it's like, imagine there was no language. Like, would sound be enough? That means this body is designed to process sensory data in different ways. This body is attracting sensory perception to itself. It's like we can treat the newborn child's intelligence like a canvas. Let's say an empty canvas. Some schools of thought feel like reincarnation. They feel the child is not a child. But let's assume that there is no reincarnation and the child is born. The child is this empty canvas, and all the sensory perception, the way all of them at once come to the being, results into the being. That means it's like they ask you, who are you? And you say your name, and your story. And after that, they ask you, who are you? And then you constantly see the more you reverse engineer back, the more something that you think you are breaks down into smaller events. So I would tell you, just like how our body is made of smaller particles, you can say your psychology is made of smaller events. So when you look at your identity in one moment, you can see fragments of the different ways in that moment you behaved in other memories and other times. This happens in speech. That means if you're to speak about something and you haven't planned it, what tends to happen if the person is very sensitive is that when you speak, there's a memory simultaneously. So it's a good question. When I ask myself, where's my mind located? The idea of the location comes from the mind. Do you see what I mean? A lot of people are like, no, Mr.Within, we don't see what you... What I mean, guys, is that the mind is defining the location, yet when we go to wonder about the location of mind, we find the simultaneity of the doer, the sense of doership, and being. So it's like, what is the purpose of to do something, to be something? Why are you being something to be able to do something? It's a cycle. It's repeating. And we think in the middle of this, we have dreams. People are chasing their dreams. How precious, you know? Sometimes if a person never asks, they never know. And sometimes if you don't wonder about the location of your intelligence, you'll never know it. That means even if there was an energetic secret, let's say we're living like human beings, we're 1,000 years from now, our ancestors are going to be, not ancestors, our great grandchildren are going to be like They're going to be like, wow, in 2020, human beings didn't realize how advanced they were. That's the thing. We're going to be remembered as the generation that had the most but did the least, until, efforts arise. There is a transition point. In my inner realms, playfully, I have closed my eyes and fathomed different types of civilizations on different planets, how they have arose. I even wrote a book on it called Cationic Imprints. It's out. This book is actually published. It's on Amazon. I remember there was one chapter. I wrote this years ago, guys, this book. There was one chapter about it where it was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was explaining a civilization that instead of having artificial technologies advance, had its natural technology advance. It was a civilization that right now we are separate from the earth, but imagine if we were connected. Imagine if we were somehow, every step we took, our roots would return to the earth. That means if the person even wants to experience a new location, your feet have to move. The way you have worn your shoes has to change. I don't mean walk barefoot in chaos, but I mean like when we realize the mind is location, location is the state of mind. The mind generates the language which then solidifies our conclusion of a location. What I think all that human beings know is a moment of being. I feel time is like how a glass orb is rolling over many colored surfaces, and so it's really just memory. Time is memory. language, if it can be used to separate people, if it can be used to unify people, renders it a multidimensional language. Multidimensional technology. So what that means is that if we change the language that we have accepted for the realm, if we communicate the story to ourselves through a different language, we will most likely experience new dimensions to the moment. What does that mean? That means imagine how many ways you could write a sentence, I did this, I did that. Instead of this and that, you could put endless terms. What does that mean? That means we are not the identity written in a sentence. We are not the identity projected in a moment. You know, first individualism was unknown. Then individualism became known. Right now, the way we have built society, the individual has become not the central point of it, but it's like it's built for people. It's built for human beings. That means even if we had, let's say, an advanced alien civilization, peaceful alien civilization land on Earth, and we decided to do immigration, alien immigration, where people from Earth are going on that alien planet, and those aliens from that planet came to Earth to live on Earth. The aliens that would come to live on Earth, the society we have built doesn't have room for them. That means we are still fighting over how human value is in human civilization. That means we're so far from becoming galactic, it's ridiculous. We are fighting over, class, color, creed. Not realizing we're inside a galaxy. What are we doing? Fighting over color. It's the most ridiculous thing. The whole beauty of the world is that it's many colors. You know? And you know, it's not the full color. When you look at the person, like the color of the blood is red. Technically, inside our body, we're all red beings, you know? That means if the color scheme, this is a chaotic idea, but if the color was separate, if it was different, if we had red skin and we had cream like skin color, or based on your skin color, like type of blood, imagine, you know? Imagine in the future, technology evolves to such a point people can change their blood color, you know? Just literally, like, you know how in phone apps you could change like the color of like the light of your car, or the light of, I don't know, some lamp or something. It's like, imagine you could change the color of your blood. Your blood would still be the same, but it would just change color. Or maybe at that point it could totally be even different pigments, where it's totally infusion of different colors. Who knows? I just feel that it's not that the mind is located in a world, is that the world is an occurrence of mind, a happening of mind. So as the mind is happening, so is the world. We ask ourselves, is the world going to be here after our mind? We know it physically it's going to be, but we don't know any other kind of world other than our mind. So true mysticism, there's a, let's say young soul mysticism is wanting to see deeper dimensions in yourself. I would say old soul mysticism is to now see deeper dimensions, trying to find the soul of the world event. It's either matter is located in mind or mind is located in matter. We have lived for a while now as mind located in matter. And I feel what's happening, whether digitally this is going to archaically revival or naturally, if mind was here before matter, we are God before God, before the concept of God. That's the thing about the mind. It's like it leads to a sort of solipsis. It's strange. It's like Buddhism. Its clarity comes from a nihilistic outcome. It's like emptiness is more of the focus. But you can say in Vedanta, it's more solipsis, where the person realizes the ultimate reality. That means all activities being considered through language to be individual, and all activities all happening overall. It's like it's a moment. Do you know? It's like the language fragments the moment. So it could be that even before the concept of a separate self a self in a world, the mind is a world. So we think we are in a world. Actually, we were the world. And we still are, just through a different lens. I wrote a sentence last night. It was, I have it here. I wrote, people are not crazy. The story of the world is crazy. What does that mean? That means whatever stability, even, whatever we call normal, whatever we accept, what is normal about being on a rock in the middle of a nowhere as a sort of genetical accident as it appears, if we see no intelligence prior? I think the evolution of the human being specifically can be explained by mythology. In mythology, there's a great clue that they would call the earth had a sort of archetype of the mother, right? And human beings are these creatures where we feel we're a descendant, or we're descendants of like chimps, do you know, and an unknown ancestor. So this is evolutionary biology, where it was chimp and an unknown ancestor that we have no mark of. Now, if the earth is the mother, so we are kind of like a being, an unknown child of the cosmos, where it knows its mother, but it doesn't know who its father is. Now, the father archetype, just like how they would say Mother Earth, something that is uncommon is that so they would also say Father Sky. So the mother, like Earth was the mother and the sky was the father, which tends to point to like our uh, chimpanzee ancestors celestially fooling around. Do you know what I mean? It could be like poetically, some people say it's like the chimp was kissed by an angel, an unknown angel archetype. It's really a cool feeling. I think this is the greatest generator of passion for an advanced civilization. How unknown it is, and how much potential there can be. That means think of literally like think as if like today you live whatever way you live, but tomorrow you wake up and you can move in endless ways. You know, we are moments, we are spheres of energy simulating individualism inside themselves. You know, language is such a fascinating technology. It's like wielding like the elements, like airbender style, but it's elements of image. So you can totally use language to break things, but at the same time, something about this technology is it's kind of like a living horse. So, like when you go horse riding, your intention, your attitude, your comfort, your fear, all of this translate and come across to the horse, for example. You know, so in language, when a person, the feeling you have before you speak sets the tone of your talk, you know, or whatever you the person communicates. Your mind in one side of the coin is located in an endless existential universal sector. That means there are many things man can dream about, can vision, can desire, but the things that are here now you can't desire. Do you know? That means nobody desires themselves when they think this is it. This is all that they are. You know, there's something about acceptance that causes your attention to move on. You know, they say that acceptance is the first part to change, you know? But I think acceptance is not helping you change. Acceptance is stopping your mind from telling you something that it can see. So beliefs and disbeliefs fall away. Egos, archetypes, they serve their moment and they too leave the moment. Everything leaves except the unborn attention. It's like our attention is rooted in the unborn. It's as if all the meaning, glory of interstellar advancement, this is all in the mind. That means no other species sees an advanced civilization here. It is only us. No species has cared to create a history. No species has cared to find some sort of vast communication. You know? The mind is. You know, there was a time I thought that we could be the entertainment of the gods. What that means is when you look at something on TV, it's as if like the characters inside the TV screen cannot access the person watching them. You know, that's kind of feels. The mind is like a superior watcher of the inferior body. You know what's fascinating? A person can hate people, and a person can hate themselves, and a person can realize when they have hated people, they have actually hated something they have seen in themselves and the other. The unity of language is a vision. We are like ants that have somehow noticed human footprints that are different than our own, and we don't know if it's even human or whatever we can call it. That means this was one of my biggest questions actually when it came to an analysis of the Fermi's paradox or the extraterrestrial situation for human beings. That is it inside or is it outside? That means right now I see the light outside of my window, but this light is entering my brain. Do you see what I mean? It is occurring internally. So outer life is an inner simulation. And so we wonder, what is an inner simulation? And we reach a point where it is an inner simulation, and like the inner simulation and is the inner, like it's kind of the strange thing where the inner realm is like 0, the outer realms is like 1, the number 1. That means when you really go within, there is no within. Your attention surpasses classification. The divine butterfly of the yogi's memory finds the moment. all thoughts bow. I'm not joking. There's something I've experienced many times where I have seen, I would say, the sacrifice of language to the observer. You know what it's weird? It's like language is also trying to stay alive. Just like how human beings are trying to exist in this cosmos, concepts require to be in the attention of man or they are lifeless from the beginning. Man is the life giver. What does that mean? That means our species can give meaning to the meaningless. And many other species, they are lost in the meaningless. So we are reaching a point where we can't question the location of the mind if the mind is neither an object or a subject. What are we left with? That means if I ask human beings outside of language, what do we know? Do you see how every person's will just be silently just like there is no answer? Because all answers are linguistic. If the moment we treat language like an Iron Man suit, we realize we're not thoughts. Thoughts come and go. It doesn't mean that the person is never a thought. It just means that as we become, the whole point of, let's say, consciousness and its faculty is control. And it doesn't mean control of the outer. You see, control is not a bad idea. Do you know? A person controlling themselves is a good thing. A person controlling other people, it's like, what the fuck? Do you see what I mean? So it becomes a situation where it's not that the idea of control is good or bad. It's coming to the user. It's not that life is unhappy or happy, rough or easy. Do you know what I mean? Life is just like how you move it. How you move your eyes in the morning. What fascinates you? Because honestly, I don't speak about talks that don't surprise me. That means if the title doesn't fascinate me, I can't really talk about it. Imagine an advanced civilization, and the members of this advanced civilization are advanced communicators, and we are multidimensionally able. Right now we're not multidimensionally able. We are maybe in trying to be able in a singular dimension. Schools are not teaching multidimensional kids. They're teaching kids in a singular dimension. Because you don't teach a multidimensional being, you just show them pretty much like you just see that it's too big to be put into a sentence. Because this event is too big to be put into a sentence, the only way is experiential engagement. I can't emphasize this enough because that's when the intuitive rhythms find you. You know? That means it was survival of the fittest. Now it is participation in the conscious event. Now more important than having things, or having power or whatever, all this, it's the role you play for your species. That means, imagine there was like, okay, this would be cool, but imagine like half the population was just hovering with jetpacks following the other half of the population on Earth, and just I'm just saying, imagine history was always being written accurately. Imagine there were some, let's call them surveillance angels. Surveillance scribes. What an incredible concept. Let's say a surveillance scribe is how in the future there will be these AI robots recording, transcribing the events of happening everywhere in the world. You know? Imagine surveillance scribe bots, okay? Now, what does that mean? That means if everything you were doing was being recorded in history books, okay, then the person would care for every moment, whether they're alone or not, how you do things, the quality, the essence, the spirit you evoke, you know? It is true, like there is a sort of metaphysics that is very ceremonial. For example, shamanic traditions, you know, various traditions, pretty much a ritual was an authorization. You know, a person who would do that, they were trying to authorize something. Pretty much you could say it's like trying to fix the car antenna. Like those old school cars where you had to fix the antenna for the radio to work. So, what does that mean? That means that the mind is defining its location. So, that which is defining the location is not a location. That means the moment the mind is not an object, it instantly cannot be a subject because the subject object are codependent. So if the mind is neither a subject or object, the mind is the additional dimension. The mind is the stranger in the room of the realm. Our minds are the higher dimension. Your attention is cosmic activity before individual activity is contained through language. Thoughts are just translations of experiences. How many experiences does a person go through? Thoughts cannot hold truth. Those hands don't have that much strength. If we treat ourselves as a thought, we miss out on our natural evolution. If we somehow selflessly live as a self, there is something about that being the next Rubik's Cube, the next mystical Rubik's Cube, where we are actually living as if our mind had nothing to lose, but our body had everything to lose. That means, what's the point? That means, let's say we had an advanced civilization, but everybody in that advanced civilization was thinking as if it wasn't advanced. What would the point of being in an advanced civilization be? You see, we can't build an advanced civilization like literally tomorrow, you know, but in our inner realms we can reach there. So we can at least build the mind of civilization before we actually build the body of an advanced civilization. So if every human being returns back to a sort of neutral, natural state of observance before definition, and then chooses to live through definitions of a way more advanced civilization, that means it's like when somebody, the victorious can forgive. The defeated, those who have never understood victory, have never experienced victory, they can't forgive. They can't pass up things. And if we can pass up an inefficient mindset on our species for an efficient one, and not a mind that is set in stone, but a mind that is set into the potential of what is there. You know, a person can think like right now, let's say you want a yacht. Random like thing I thought. Okay, let's say you want a yacht. Okay, now let's say you're on this yacht. You don't have this yacht, but if you were, you can visualize what your mind would be like. So what does that mean? That means the person doesn't have a yacht, but they can close their eyes, visualizing having a yacht. What would it be like to take it to the water? What would it be like to navigate it on the water and bring it back? Like the person in their inner realms can get your state of mind can your mind, because the viewer is witnessing time, your mind is not limited to linearity. This is the only reason we have imagination, because it's the biggest suggestion that we are not rational animals. It's like, how did we know there was something more than reality? Because we realized we had to create a concept called reality to constantly keep coming back to it. So it's like, by nature, it's like multidimensional. In my own school of thought, I say there's 4 phases to evolution. And we are in the 3rd phase, going to the 4th. And what is the bridge between the 3rd and the 4th is language. So the first phase, I say, of evolution was UW. UW is the unconscious world. That means there was just world here, none of us were here. And there was the as Carl Jung says, you have a conscious mind right now, which your identity is functioning through. So then there's the unconscious mind. So I'm saying the first phase of evolution was an unconscious world. That means there was nothing to even know there is a world. Okay? Then there came the unconscious self. The unconscious self is the body. This is the objective evolution. At this point, still, there is a self, there is the body of a creature, but there isn't, what do you call it? Excuse me. There isn't awareness to the self. That means imagine like the world being here, then imagine the body of a creature being here, but this creature has no way of being aware it's a body in a world. Then there was the subjective evolution where nobody's teaching, nobody's talking about, but it's very evident that there was something like that. And so this is the conscious self. This is what has happened. This animal has, after going through an objective evolution, the body noticing it's separate from the earth, then there came the creature noticing it is the body that is separate from the earth. Because the body has its own, I say there's genetical languages even, I would consider. So that's the subjective evolution. And I've given talks on that. People can check it out, but that's worth like endless discussions. The subjective evolution. It's pretty much like some sort of mirror effect happened. What does that mean? Jacques Lacan, this philosopher, says, this psychologist philosopher, he says there's the mirror effect. The most important moment in a child's life is that moment when the child looks at itself in the mirror and becomes an individual to itself, notices there is an individuality. So we went from an unconscious world, nothing here, to suddenly the emergence of a body. The unconscious self, the objective evolution. Then the conscious self, we became aware. Do you know that we're aware? And so we became a subjective evolution. And that's where names have come. Where we're no longer just creatures roaming, objects roaming this earth. We are language-based entities with stories, backgrounds, idiosyncrasies that only through language we can notice that we're different characteristics, And then now, what is the 4th phase of evolution? Where are we going? You can totally see up to the conscious, up to the conscious self. There's up to the subjective evolution, how everybody right now is treating themselves as a subject. Pretty much matter evolved into a subject. It's like, evolution made an object become a subject to itself. So the next phase is, so we experience the unconscious world. Then we experience the unconscious self. Then we experience the conscious self. Now the only thing left is the conscious world, where this is something that in different personal predictions of where the world is heading, I have thought it could be 10,000 years from now, and there's a specific reason. I'm not just saying that number. 10,000 years from now, where we will move beyond being an individual concept. That means we will reach a point of awareness as a species on such a mainstream level where it doesn't matter if there is a body or not. That's how mindful of being mind we will be, So that's an advancement beyond the language threshold, which I'm going to pause there for a second, because it would literally mean we are becoming the personality of the planet. That means imagine every person right now, all these genetical beacons being passed down through time. Guys, I'm going to finish this point. and also finish coughing. But I'm going to respond to the chat section, but I'm going to just there's something I got to share about the transition of individual objects, noticing that they're individual known objects experiencing themselves as collective unknown subjects. Okay? It's a new phase. It literally means we are drops of water now living in a civilization. Everybody is their own raindrop. Now imagine these drops of water now merging. So imagine before we have like 8 billion human beings having one mind, whether through a digital representation or a natural representation. It's as if, imagine before we have 8 billion, we have groups of 8. So we will have, like, imagine 8 people who will literally have one mind. All their brains are connected to one server, imagine. Right? So we will have, imagine, like, how in, like, I remember as a kid, I don't know why this image is, like, being remembered, but, like, but I remember I would see this, like, Power Ranger thing where they would all, like, connect to each other and become some giant robot or something. Like, there was, I don't know, there was a moment of joy there. But that connection is very key, because I think that's what's going to happen, where right now we are aware of the individual Homo sapien, or the individual human being. I think we will then become the collective human being, or just to make it more culturally relative, I'll say collecto human being. This is still an individual, like you can say this would, a collective human being would be like a group mind. So I'm saying before there is planetary mind, there are group minds. So the transition to the unconscious world, here's the thing I want to say, it's like metamorphosis. It is literally like a caterpillar, an object subject, or a subject object. That's pretty much all human beings' belief systems. They either feel they're an object, and their subjective landscapes are limited to their objective existence, or they feel it's not. That's pretty much all of knowledge for you folks. It's all about how the human antenna is receiving the signal of its moment, and the life of it, of the command of the moment. I don't know how to say it. There is a force here. It's like Yoda. Even though he could lift the ship, but he still was humble enough to hold the cane. And I always thought, why did Yoda use a cane when this dude had such ability with the Force? And I realized because he knew that after you reach ultimate power, all that is left is to play your part. You literally, it's kind of hilarious, but the body's purpose is to become an archetype, which means a role. Do you know? That means we're all like different instruments in a cosmic symphony. These drops of water, let us say, merge. They become a river. Rivers merge. These groups of group mind, collective human being groups, group mind human beings. It's like the same. You can say somebody, a person having like a headphone, having something in their ear and someone telling them what to say. Sometimes I feel, when I see politicians, I feel that's what's going on. But it's like that moment when you're talking to someone on the phone. It's as if their voice. Does it matter if their voice was in the room or somewhere else? It's in your mind when you're listening to it. So that's the cool thing. That means the mind is beyond location. So we are linguistic-based creatures wondering about a mind that is using language to define location, and wondering that we are realizing the mind is beyond location. That means the creator cannot be defined by the alphabet of its creation. What does that mean? That means, just because, imagine an artist I don't know, Picasso, Da Vinci, whoever, Michelangelo, whatever, some artist drawing something, and you going and see, imagine the Mona Lisa, okay? Imagine you went and saw the Mona Lisa, and from the Mona Lisa, you wanted to know what Da Vinci's childhood was. It's like that artwork leaves nothing. It is made in the image of its creator, but it has nothing that says who, in some sense, Da Vinci is. The artwork has limits to how the design of the moment was set into place. That's really what the laws of nature tell us, that there is something going on, something specific. So language must be used to unify, even though it has been used to individualize ourselves. But I feel if a technology can be used to separate things, it can also be used to make things collective. And right now, more than ever, we got to put aside the masks of the desires of the individual to figure out what the most efficient blueprint for the next prototype of civilization for the future generations will be. That's pretty much the vision of an advanced civilization. That means instead of you trying to think one step ahead, think as far steps as you can, and you will see as far as you go. What it is, it's like you put 200% effort, and then you get 50% result. But if you keep that effort over time, you get 100. Do you see what I mean? It becomes something like that. The more I'm a body, the more limited the free will is, The more I'm a mind, the more the body's definition of the free will is up to itself. It's like they asked someone, "What is the free will?" and someone said, shouted back, "Whatever you want it to be." It's like, and it's like that's so true. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'm gonna open up Q&A and answer some questions in the chat section, and I'll share the link for the Discord. There's the public Discord server is called School of Athens 2.0, guys. People discuss global ideas there, so people are or feel free to join. Anyways, let's see. So Simon says, heard of Simonians? Yeah, man, I googled it. It's like something about Gnostics. So Gnostics are kind of like Sufis, but from the Christian parallel reality, Janie says, how did it acknowledge anything if it was not aware when there was nothing and nothing to show or teach? It was not aware. Awareness is unconditional. Consciousness which has form is conditional. So it was awareness before it could acknowledge a thing to become consciousness. I feel maybe that's a way. Janie says, how do you become aware of something that isn't there? You don't do anything. Action through inaction. That's pretty much Taoism. Or do you mean aware of self? See, I'm saying like this, Janie, that imagine your mind is like space, and your identity and everything you see is the content of your mind is like the matter in the space. So the mind is like space. It's not a thing, So that's what I'm saying. The mind is there. Space can't die. Space can't break. So all these mystics and yogis are speaking about the ever-present space. And it's not that the mind is space. I'm using that as a metaphor to say that it's there before anything else was. Because it's there before anything else was, it automatically is. It's instantaneously unconditional. The moment there is another image, then it becomes conditional. Billy says, give its knowledge to the unknowing. Diagram of the Simonian. A knowledge yard, man. Let me Google this, see what this is. Okay, I'm looking at it. So yeah, so Simon, I looked at this diagram of the Simonian aeonology. I don't know how you would say it, but it seems to be just by looking at it here. I'll share the picture for people. So guys, this is the Q&A area in the chat section. This idea is brought up. I found a picture for it. I want to share it here. So this is evidently something that was considered by a Gnostic sect. You could say through the Christian mystical angle or something like that. But So it says it goes from powers who were generated by thought, then we have thought, earth the lowest, then name, reflection. Then we go the image from the incorruptible form alone or all things, yeah, the avatar. Then we go to reason, air, voice, sun, mind. I don't know, I think from the middle they're going down the mountain. So I think from D suddenly it's going down the mountain. And then it says, C, it says great thought. Oh, never mind. Maybe it's gonna. C says great thought, then universal mind, then incorruptible form. The incorruptible form is like the attributeless witness. Because a universe is still an attribute to something. So universal mind, both the notion of the mind and the universe. I mean, the mind, I'm now saying we should see it as attributeless, but people tend to see it as a limits of a container, you know, so like a file cabinet or something. It's not. Then it's beyond the incorruptible form. So from absolute being, we go to invisible, inapprehensible silence, then the perfect intellectual. The universal principle. Yeah, the perfect intellectual, the universal principle means pretty much you become the universe. So it's like we're man today, but universe tomorrow. By the way, guys, it's Q&A. People can ask questions. So I really don't know enough, Simon, to know the context of some of these, how these shapes are placed, but it seems to be a balance. So pretty much at the end of it, it's pretty much the intersection of two realms. This is pretty much like mind, a dimension of mind and body. It's very fascinating how many different traditions have had esoteric similarity. It's weird. It's just like people speak different languages. It's like a behavior is a kind of language. So imagine people's culturally different behavior is like different body languages. Like in Italy, it's very obvious. Like when I went there, their body language is very, very different, very open, way more liberated than most countries. I would say certain European countries. But it's strange. It's like, for example, the freedom, the culture, I don't know. It all depends, I guess, how, what dimensions are kept alive in the psyche of the person by their society. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Seems like there's no more questions. I'll be in the Discord server for a little bit for those interested. Much blessings. And Simon, I honestly don't know what to say about the diagram of the Simonian eonology other than all of it is in a circle. All of them are in a circle. All dimensions, all these, the universal boundless, the universal root, the lower regions or world made by angels and whatever, like you see this is, they're all in a circle. The circle is the one intelligence, but it's not one like oneness. You know, it's more like the prime movement, the prime principal mover of the moment. The principal mover of the moment can only be the whole moment. That means imagine you're like pretty much I'm saying the mind is being like a glass sphere where we are moving inside it while the glass sphere is moving. Because that's really what the unconscious mind implies. There's movements of your mind that you yourself even are not aware of. And sometimes in dream states, or you can say inner realm events throughout the conscious waking state, it's like you notice these. Think of it this way. Everybody tells us balance, but they say that you only have to be in reality. So I'm saying, what is this sort of notion that could it be perhaps we have to build a civilization that satisfies the hunger of the body, you know, for actual physical events and activity, and the hunger of the mind for dimensional experience, for advancing the dimensions of experience. So anyways, so where is your mind located? Where silence saw it all. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Much blessings and all.